Venu Keller. I want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV channels 250, 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. This app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Today, I have an extraordinary guest. And I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of background. My husband and I happened to take a cruise this past fall in Alaska. And when we were on the ship, they were having an art auction. And before we went to the art auction, we went into the art gallery and we were seeing these amazing paintings that were all black and white. And then all of a sudden a splash of color. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like I would love to have these in my home. And I'm thinking they're going to be like $50,000, $100,000, because this was like real artwork we had never even seen before. And so fast forward, we go to the auction and we buy two pieces. And I said, there's something about this artist because he doesn't have any faces on the characters that he paints, the people. And there's something about him. There's something in his soul that I see in these paintings. And so I went on a mission for, I think, like a week to find this guy. And I'm like, I am going to find him and I'm going to find out about his story because there's something about him I can see in his artwork. And sure enough, I was able to find Create, who's my guest today on our show. Create, thank you so much for taking time away from your amazing artwork to come and talk to my guests and myself about how do we overcome who we are. And especially, you're a father of a 20-year-old and 15-year-old. You're this upcoming huge, Latino artist with amazing work. We were just talking behind stage how you're like so far behind because the demand is so high, which I personally call a quality problem. So
100%.
And you're here and you've created this createology to help people with mindset. So there's, like I said, when I started off the show, this is really about when I saw your artwork, there was something that inspired me that I knew there was something deeper inside of you that you were being able to express through your artwork. So I just kind of want to start out there, like how you even started off in the work of being an artist.
Yeah, well, so I moved from New York and I had kind of wanted to get away from like just the hustle and bustle of, everybody knows that the city is like big city, no pity. So I kind of restationed myself down in Miami, and it was probably the best and worst transition I've ever had. Coming from the upper echelon of tattooing in New York, I had to go to the upper echelon tattooing in Miami, which that is a rapport based profile. So people when they come into the tattoo shop, they're like, I'm here for this person, I'm here for her, I'm here for him. So I'm standing there like, well, what do I do? I've got bills, I got mortgage, I got family. They say, well, you got to prove it to you that you're worthy. So day in and day out, I just started painting. It was a blessing in disguise. The more I painted, the more I saw that I had a voice. People really started to understand and look at me like, wow, this guy's a real deal artist. I'm like, we're all tattoo artists. I thought we're all supposed to be artists, but I was actually one of the ones that was a full blown, like I lived my life as a creator. And lo and behold, I started doing shows and it started to work and we started to sell stuff. And then I was like, well, now that I have this platform, how could I utilize every inch of it? So I started to formulate this little thing. I started calling it Faceless. And the premise of it is judgment. As you can see, I was a tattooer. So my neck is tattooed, my face is tattooed, my hands are tattooed. I'm fully sleeved up. I'm tattooed. So I'm like hoodlum, but as I started to get better in my life, now I'm 42 years old. I do not regret any of my tattoos, but I grew up. And not saying that people with tattoos aren't grown up, but I had to understand what my platform was and what I could reach. And it actually was a double entendre because it was like, well, if I wasn't tattooed and I went through a bunch of adversity, could I teach somebody? But because I look tattooed and because I am tattooed, it's apparent that I went through adversity for some odd reason. So it is very easy to influence anybody's kind of mindset. So that's where the whole faceless thing came from. Is I wanted to get away from judgment. In the art world, that the art culture says, if you say you're a serious painter, let's see a portrait. Let me see, because that's how you kind of show off the chops of if you can paint or if you can't paint. So I was like, you know what? I think I got a little bit more to offer. You know what? I'm actually going to take the one thing that you guys judge on a daily basis. I'm going to take that out because I want you to see it for the essence of what it is. And that's the essence of creation. It is actually bypasses all the, well, look, one of the eyes is bigger than the other, the eyelashes. I take away some of the mistakes and I take away all the mistakes. Well, we could do that within ourselves too. We all make mistakes, but it doesn't mean that we can't refine those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I started to under, understand what I could and couldn't do. And it's like, man, the second I knew I had this platform, it was the moment I said, I'm going to change and I'm going to inspire people. And the power of proximity allows me, as in my platform, to touch, I mean, a multitude of people. So it's the exact thing that you saw when you saw on that cruise ship. The same thing that I put into my artwork, you said it's soul, it's culture, it's everything. I made sure to capture that into an image, like the chase your dreams. I mean, literally the shirt that I'm wearing right now, like I wear it every single day to remind myself to never lose sight of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the actually reason why I'm doing is for people to understand, not the to understand the understood, because
Mm,
most people are very, very understood. And to me, I felt like I brought a lot to the table, but nobody really wanted to listen. They're like, look at the way you look. You bring nothing to the table. Now I've got a group of people that love to listen to me speak. And that is so compelling and it's very liberating because you wouldn't think that someone like myself and even myself was like, wow, how could I even go from even thinking that I can instruct people on how to behave or this, because what is it my place? But I went through so much experience, the top, the bottom, in the middle. you know i I hit landmines as much as I could. I blew myself up, but I repaired myself every single time. And what I want to do with creatology is literally just rebuild people's minds again, because we've been conditioned in so many ways. And I mean, I have my triggers and I have my conditions, and it's really hard to kind of battle yourself. It's tough.
right, right. You've hit on so many interesting points. And one of the biggest things I think our kids face each and every day, regardless of the age, you have a 20-year-old, I have 28 and 24-year-olds, it's that judgment.
Of
And
course.
the fact that you're right. Like when we look at somebody, what are we looking at? We're looking at their face.
Hmm.
When people are comparing themselves, our kids are comparing each other on Instagram, on Snapchat, saying, well, look at them, and they're looking at their face and like their eye color, their cheekbones,
Yep.
are they wearing makeup? Like, oh, they're wearing too much makeup. And the fact that you take that away, and it's like, so number one, you hit it on the head, because exactly how I felt about your paintings is what you were trying to describe. So you're doing it right, apparently. And but you're also giving people an opportunity, that the face on that, because we have chase your dreams, right? And it was interesting because my husband and I, when we first saw it, it was the writing on the back of his shirt, chase your dreams.
Of
And
course.
the fact that it had all the different colors, because our dreams can be in black and white, our dreams can be in color, and we get to choose
Yep.
what that is. And we display this because we want even our kids to remember this. It's more than just a piece of art in our house. It's a reminder
100%.
exactly where we go every day in our general area in our house. It's up there. So everybody that watched, like, sees it, they remember there's a dream inside of you. It
Of
doesn't have
course.
to die with you. You
Yeah.
can go after it no matter what color it looks like or what judgment that other people have about it. You
Hmm.
have this opportunity, especially our kids, not taken away from what their dreams are. Like, I already know my daughter, I have twins that are 10. My daughter wants to be an artist somehow, whether it's painting, drawing. She loves taking an outfit and just turning one outfit into 10 different outfits by just tying knots in the sleeves and stuff. And I'm like, wow, your mind is like her playground. My
Yeah.
son wants to be the next Messi. Like, he is so into soccer. He watched the World Cup every day. He's out there, he's learning what these soccer players, these World Cup soccer players are doing in their morning routine, and he's implementing them in his life, saying, okay,
That's
they eat
awesome.
avocado toast. He's been eating avocado toast for a week now because he wants to be them. And he's realizing that the role models are there for a reason. And if he wants it bad enough, what do you need to do to get it? And that's kind of like what Chase Your Dream to me represents,
That's
is
exactly what it is.
it's for you to take it however you want without the judgment that's out there. So I love that. I love the fact that, creatology that you've created is more than just, like you said, like anybody can be an artist, but it starts with the mind.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, if you can't conquer what's up here, it's really hard to put it down on what's here. You know, well, I say it a lot. You know, this is what I teach my students. I say we all deal with three of us. So within one person, there's three of us. You got the right, the left, and then the you. You got the yes, the no, and then the you. Which one are you reacting to? You know, which one is actually speaks louder? Which one do you hear more? You know, people that are very passionate tend to listen to that right side. They're like, you know what? That chase your dreams. I'm actually going to chase your dreams. You know, kids that oh, I'm going to eat avocado toast every single day because that's just what they did. That's the right side of their brain. And then the actual physical body's like, you know what, I'm actually going to listen to what you say. When you don't have the left side saying you can't do that, you're not good enough, you know, there's no way, you're not an athlete, you don't even like soccer, you can't even play, that side says that all the time, even when this side says, oh man, I love soccer, I have a soccer ball in my hand every single day, and I eat the toast every single day, I want to be just like them. But what I think a lot of kids, adults, I think what we all kind of forget, or maybe just, I don't want to say dismiss, but kind of just look past is it's easy to take the strong attributes or the easy attributes of eating avocado toast and you know, I'm going to wake up and play soccer and I'm going to do this, but there's a lot of stuff in that you have to formulate to become that. It's easy to eat toast every day, and but the premise of that is if I can do this one thing consistently, then chances are I can do other things consistently. So usually it falls right in order. Like, yes, the only reason you're saying toast is because that's just what you know right now on the surface. You do a little bit more research and do a little bit more due diligence, and you're like, wow, this is what he does too. So now instead of even I will eat avocado toast, but I also got to run 5 miles a day. I also got to do this. Take those too, because that's what I tell my kids. I tell my kids, it's like you guys took all my cool attributes, like my bravado, the swag. You took all that stuff, but what about the ambition, the motivation? What about that stuff? Because they kind of tend to forget that because we are in a time of the reason that they are conditioned that the way that they are is because of what's happened prior. So
Correct.
me and my assistant, we were talking about it yesterday. We are listening to Smells Like the '90s on iHeartRadio, and I sit back and I'm like, damn, they are some real whiners. But I didn't realize that actually started, like, it goes right back to the gangster hip hop, went to the slower hip hop, went to now to the hip hop that it is now. There is an evolution. Now we've got to kind of follow those trends, and that's just what it is. Now, if you don't like the mold, then change the mold.
I
And I
love it.
think that and that's I think that's what a lot of it has to do is I don't want to be like this. Okay, well, no one says you have to be like that.
Mhm.
Take their attributes, take everything that made them successful, and then add your own little recipe of what's going to work and what's not going to work. It's taken me 42 years to understand that one bad decision today does not equal a bad decision tomorrow.
No, it doesn't. And it's interesting. I tell people this. I have a friend of mine. Her name's Kendra, and she was teaching this to us at a live event I was just at. She says, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it can be what I think is good luck to you or bad luck to you. Your bad luck 2 years later might have been the best luck you ever had because that happened to you. And so again,
exactly.
it all comes back to like taking out the judgment of the situation. Like the situation that's happening doesn't have to be good or bad. It's just a situation. And
Yeah,
what do you need to do? And then instead of looking at it as a problem, what's the opportunity that you're faced in that moment? And that
correct.
brings us back to like, how do you overcome yourself? It's looking at one thing you just said is if you don't like the mold, change it. And
Yeah,
we are a circumstance of our past. Like the past has happened
yeah,
and it's been a stepping stone to who we are today. And take what benefits you and leave what doesn't, and then start creating what you really want. Right. And
100%.
it's kind of like what you said, like avocado toast, it starts there first.
Of
You
course.
that habit, and then you stack the other habit. And
Yep,
then when you get that down, you stack another habit. And
yep,
you're going to start to see how your skill, if you would, starts to transform. But then the element that you need to add, it's exactly what you said. You got to add yourself. What's
yeah.
important to you now? And we were talking about this backstage because we're having a great conversation. We're like, oh, we got to
Yep.
start the show.
I
Um,
know.
we're not asking our kids, what is it that you want? What is it? Not what I want for you. I don't want to heal my own wounds through
Through
you.
you, yeah, and it's hard for us parents to not, because we say, "I just don't want you to say make the same mistakes that I did," but inherently, the mistakes that I made led me to here. So it's really
Yes,
hard to say, "Don't run into the hurdle or don't run into the wall," but there are a few things. There are a couple of variables. It's like, okay, let's bypass a few of these frivolous things. They're like the big ones. Yeah, my daughters. She says I haven't really done anything. I was like, yeah, you did. You got a card and murdered a mailbox like instantly, like, and then left the scene. I was like, no, how did you commit a felony? You've been driving 5 minutes. And she's like, Dad, I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you definitely don't leave. So we
Right.
went back I took her back to the house, and the guy didn't even want money. He says, you know what, I've got kids too. And he says, it's okay. And he's like, yeah, things happen, but just, and he said it in front of her, learn from your mistakes. And I said,
Yes.
see, he's not even mad. He wasn't even mad. Because, as a children, we break a window, we do anything. It's like, whoa, like, lightning's about to strike. And we think it's so severe. And as we get older, and that's the bad thing about conditioning children. Sometimes the worst thing that they can handle that stuff at home. This is kind of what I'm going through with my 15-year-old. She is a very independent woman. She is a very social butterfly. And I tell her, I was like, you know what? No disrespect to anybody outside, inside. We only care in this house. The second you leave that door, that you could say, well, my dad's famous. They really don't care. Now, when you buy your apartment and you go to the leasing office, and says, do I have to pay rent? My dad's famous. We kind of want them. Oh, if your dad's famous, give us the money.
Right.
You know, it's just they think that everybody's in this little cocoon of rescue, and I will rescue my kids no matter what, but they have to apply themselves. If you do not apply yourself, you do not get any help. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that and we were talking about it just a few seconds ago. What really we need to structure as far as building like attribute on top of attribute, what it really refines is your discipline. Because the only way that it's going to work is a one letter word, and it's discipline. Without the discipline, you can have, we say it all the time, an idiot with a plan will beat a genius without one.
Can you say
You
that
know,
one more
we,
time? That was really good.
yeah, an idiot with a plan will beat a genius without one.
Mm,
So it doesn't matter. Like I say it all the time. I said, all my information is just information. It's absolutely frivolous without action.
right.
I can say the most compelling thing that will part the sea, you start to walk on water, but without the actual act of doing it, it means nothing. And I see that with my students, and it's like they have the recipe, but some of them are just kind of refusing. It's like, you know what? I'm not here to tell you when to take the step. I'm not here to do that. I'm telling you, I'm here to show you how to take the step. Don't be afraid of it. It's okay. You're gonna fall. You're gonna trip. You're gonna scrape your knees. You might need stitches. You might have to have a leg amputated. That does not mean life is over.
Right. And you're going to get back up and you're going to redo it again.
Of
And
course.
I feel like, when we have this conversation, we're really aligned with that because I don't lift up my kids either. Like I'm there to watch you fall,
Of
but I'm
course.
also there to cheer you on as you get back up and you take that next step because you're going
Hmm.
to have the most learning in that. And you're also going to know that I've always got your back to cheer you on.
100%.
And you brought up something called discipline, and it was so funny because my husband and I were just having a conversation today with my 10-year-old son, and my husband says it takes one thing, it takes discipline, and I said yes it does, and I said one of my mentors, Joseph McClendon III, he says discipline is doing the exact thing at the exact time, the prescribed thing at the prescribed time, even though you
Yeah.
don't want to do it. And my
Yep.
husband says, well, I was just watching a podcast with Mike Tyson who said discipline is doing what you don't want to do and loving it anyway.
Yep.
Like doing it as you love it, right? Doing it, acting like you love it. You
That
know,
is actually the presence of that is the presence of chase your dreams. Because chase your dreams isn't the end goal. Chase your dreams is the journey. It's actually all the stuff you endure, and have all the endeavors that you do, and every trials and tribulation that you do, every bit of adversity. That is the dream. The dream is to do something you do not want to do until you get to do what you want to do.
I love it. And I said this to a client back on, I was just looking it up on November 29th. He was having some challenges with getting the grades and making those A's in college and stuff. And I said, it is not the reward you're going to celebrate. That's not what you're going to get excited about. You're going to get excited about what it took to get that
Mhm.
reward.
Of course.
He was like, oh my gosh, because everybody wants the reward of the A. Do you really? Or do you want the reward of the A knowing what it took for you to get that A? Because
Yes.
if not, we would all just cheat and copy off people and then get the A. But what gratification inside do you receive as a person? Where do you get your value and your worth
100%. Yep.
just because you got the A? The
Yep.
worst that we need to feel as our, even as kids within inside of ourselves, starts at a young age when we see the importance and the value we bring into the world by just being us
Yeah.
without putting on
Yeah.
all these masks. And that's what, again, why I love your painting, because like you take off the mask, it could be whoever
100%.
you want it to be.
Yes. Yes. It's self portraits of all of us. That's why it's not that you saw, all you did was see yourself. That's why you love it so much. It's like, wow, I could, people ask me, they're like, why this and why that? They're like, why do you paint a ballerina? And why do you do this? And it's like, before you even think you have a perspective or perception on why I do what I do, please truly find out why I do what I do. People ask me all the time, why ballerina? It's like, you know what? I'm giving flowers to people that deserve the flowers that do not get the flowers. Like,
Yeah.
I talk about all the time that any gymnast, a ballerina, these guys are dedicating to their craft at 3 years old, all the way to 24 years old. If they don't meet that standard, they got to go do something else. So you devoted your entire existence to something that could just be disregarded in one heartbeat because you don't fit the weight caliber, the height caliber, the look caliber, the whole vanity. Because part of what I did with Faceless, I should have called it vanity, because we are truly in a time of vanity. Like,
Yes.
it's everything is superficial. Like, people with stuff that I have. People started congratulating me with the stuff that I have. It's like, I just because I didn't spend it and I didn't show it doesn't mean that I didn't have it at that time. But that's the perception of people. It's like, oh, it's easy to approach somebody with a Lamborghini because they're successful. But what makes you think that? But look at Jeff Bezos. He's worth $8 billion and was driving a Honda Accord. Like, but it just shows, like, what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of what do you want people to perceive you? For me, the adversity, I never got to look prestigious. That's why I paint people in suits, because I admired that look so much. I was like, wow, it looks so powerful. It looks like you're, and now in the time of 2022, the biggest criminals wear suits. So it's odd that we deal with specifics, and the semantics of it is scary, because it's you would think that someone like me would be the biggest criminal. And I'm actually right now a super adult. I pay all my bills. I take care of my kids. I do everything. I cross the T's and dot the I's. I couldn't be any more better than I am. I'm boring. I don't do nothing but work. But that's what I like. That's the discipline that I have taught myself. I have given myself laws within myself. And I tell this to my students, that the laws that we build, we've had them since we were children. When the light comes on, you go outside. When the light comes on again, you go inside. That's a law. I gotta be in there or my mom will beat my butt. Like, period. Okay, so that's not a law, but man, it is a law. Okay, so
Right.
that same premise, you could do that within yourself. So that's what I started to do with Creatology. I was like, you know what? I want you to write down 5 things that are going to be your law. Like, I'm going to paint 10 hours a week. And then these laws change, just like evolution. Everything has to change. I don't want you to only paint for 20 hours your entire career. No, no, no. We start off, we do it practical. I try to teach my students practicality and be logic. The logical thing that we all know, that the numbers, everything lies within mathematics. X amount of time is going to render X amount of results. One of the biggest formulas that I teach in my creatology is compounding time.
Mm.
Compounding time is what happened to me. So what I did within 5 years, how I've been able to accomplish what I have in 5 years usually takes people 20 years. But because I have compounded the time, it doesn't equate the same. So this is one of the theories I teach. I said, if you work, because we're gonna do it in normal society, 40 hours is gonna render you 40-hour results. 80 hours will render you 80-hour results. 120 hours a week will render you 120 hours a week. Now, if you do the math, chronologically, we say 1 week is 40 hours. Now, if we do 3 times that, if we're doing 4, 8, 1, 120, so for every 1 week, you're doing 3 weeks worth of work. So for every 1 month, you're doing 4 months worth of work. So if you do the math, that time really compounds. Now, it was easy. And I don't want to say it's easy for me to say, but it is easy for me to say because my career was art. So it was very easy for me to structure 120 hours because that's what I did naturally. Now people, my students don't have that luxury, but they do have the luxury to take that 1 hour and create 4 hours worth of work. And then they take that 2 hours. So I tell them, there's no excuse. You can't tell a hard worker about hard work. Well, this is hard. Okay, well, I work very hard, so I can show you how to do it. So even teaching them the formula. They still can't formulate it within themselves. They're like, you know what? Life gets in the way. And it's like, what I want you guys to understand is that my problems didn't go away. Life didn't go away for me because I'm successful. It actually hits me even harder because there are bigger issues now.
Right.
But the mindset allows me to be diligent and say, you know what? This problem's not going to go away. Some people have a problem and it debilitates 4 days of their life. So
It
they're
does.
unproductive 4 days of their life. Well, me, the problem I know is not going to go away. I'll address it when I get the time. Now, if it's something severe as far as family, and we know that life stops and hey, we do what we need to do for our family. That's no problem. But most of the time they're doing it because something that's very insignificant. They're making such significance about the insignificant.
But I think if you are able to create that time, if you would, when life does happen, you're able to take that time off to take care of the
100%.
business without the guilt, you know?
Yep.
And like, it just happened to me. Like I had taken a week off to do this seminar because I took time for me. Like I
You
need
have to.
to be the best of me, which means I need to continue. I'm hungry to grow. So I took a week off to do a seminar. And then all of a sudden, my brother passed away and I had to go to Idaho because my mom was
Mm,
doing the prayers. And even though I wasn't close to my brother, it was still my brother. And it's my mom who's mourning for her son now. So I knew everything got dropped. And I was able to go and be with my mom for a week and not worry like, oh, my client's going to be upset with me. I owe this to
yeah.
no, no,
No.
because I have created the time that I put into my work. Not only that, but the caring I give to the people I get to serve, that they want to
100%.
give it back. And so,
Yep.
and that is how you create that. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not behind on anything. I didn't feel like, oh, it's Monday. How am I going to? There is nothing to get caught up on. I'm going to do what I can in that moment for my Monday. And now today's Tuesday, and I'm going to keep doing the same thing. So, time, I have learned not to let time overwhelm me. You know,
100%. It's scary.
it is. It is. And
But
I
the
used to. I used
yeah,
to. Like I was stressed out all the time. There's not enough time. There's not enough time. And that became my mantra. And guess what? There was not enough time.
yeah. If you
It,
say it, there won't be.
correct. It's
Yeah.
the mindset. And it brings me back to like looking at where you came from with the odds against you, and I know you used to be a tagger, like you used to like do graffiti. And you went from like, I don't know if it was tattoo artist then graffiti or vice versa.
Well, it was actually gang culture. So I was part of a
There you go.
gang, and the
There you go.
gang. So how that worked out for me is, see, and this is another blessing in disguise. The hindsight is always 2020. You're like, wow, I can't believe. But if that wouldn't happen, that would have never led me to this. So I went from being part of the gang culture because that's the neighborhood that we lived in. It was like, hey, if you don't represent this block, then you're gonna have trouble every single day. So I was like, okay, if you can't beat them, join them. So I joined them, and then I got kicked out of the high school that I was going to, and the only high school that allowed me to go there was an alternative school for gang members. So it was I even got kicked out of that school. So it's just crazy. So but by me going to that school, I got introduced to graffiti, and I was getting jumped one day by a rival gang member or gang members, and a graffiti artist helped me. And he says, hey man, maybe you should try your luck out at graffiti. We don't fight as much, and it represents something that truly you don't understand just yet, and I'm going to show you how to understand it. So I kind of I was like, you know what, this stuff is, maybe it's not for me, because in the cards, this was how my life kind of forecasted in the beginning. When I was 14, my mother, when it was my birthday, oh wow, you made it to 15. Oh wow, you made it to 16. Oh
Wow.
wow, you made it to 17. That's how my birthday. It wasn't like, oh, happy birthday. It was like, well, you made it another year. Hopefully you don't get killed this year. Hopefully you don't get, because that life. I've always been a very, very ambitious person, even in the wrong stuff. So when I was gang, I was fully gang. When I was when I was graffiti, I was fully, fully graffiti. What graffiti taught me still lives with me to this day. What it taught me in the beginning, it taught me just, hey, write your name everywhere because you just want to be everywhere because it's about infamous and fame and stuff like that. What I took from it to this day, 42 years old, and I still carry this same mantra with me. Your name is everything. That name that you represent follows you around every single day. What does that name is associated with? Is it somebody that you want to be around? Is it somebody that you don't want to be around? And so that's how I kind of started the whole formulating the brands, and it's like in the gang culture, I had a specific name. In the tattoo culture, I had a specific name. In the graffiti, I had a specific name. Now in fine art, I took Create because Create was a graffiti crew of 20 of us kids in 1996. We were just all really creative kids, and we're like, let's just start a crew and let's call ourselves Create because that's what we do. We are the essence of creation. Lo and behold, now I'm a lot older, and after I left tattooing my name was K Rock because the teacher that I had at that time, he when I walked into the tattoo shop, I went in to get a tattoo, but I had the bravado of that I was already like a rock star. So they were like, "Oh, Kevin thinks he's a rock star. Oh, K Rock. Oh, that kind of fits him. Wow, go rock this K Rock because you think you're a rock star." And I just kind of always had this little bravado of myself of being like more important and like instead of using my energy or whatever everybody else saw that I had, I was always doing in the wrong thing. Gangs, graffiti, not necessarily tattooing because tattooing was a great outlet, but at the end of the day, that's a stigma and a taboo too.
Yep.
You know, it's something that's like in the tattoo shop, in my own tattoo shop, I was a rock star. But the second I went and got lunch, I was a lowlife. The same person that I tattooed is holding onto their purse. And it's like, you're wearing my tattoo. Oh,
Right.
you did do my tattoo. I'm like, damn. It's like you see, all you saw was the image of me, and you didn't even see that I actually tattooed you. You know,
Mm,
but that just shows how perception and perspective works. And it's like, wow, I dealt with this duality and the dichotomy of duality, I swear, my whole life. Like, am I this or am I that? Am I the rock star? Or am I this? Am I just a regular guy? What am I? You know, and that's what kids deal with every single day. That duality of themselves of they got their peers and their the people that they admire and they look up to, unless it's someone that's like an athlete, they're literally getting the wrong information because it's coming from their perspective. Now if you take all that information and you kind of put it into your perspective, then it really hits a little different. You're like, oh wow, would you really do that for yourself? Now put yourself in this shoe. Would you want your own kids to do it?
right.
And
And
that's when it gets scary.
it's interesting because that's why the show's called Redefine Parenting. We have to redefine the way that we're parenting now. Like we have to parent through fresh eyes. It cannot be the way that we were parented because we're in a different generation. You know, I
100%.
was the Gen X kid, the latchkey kid, the independent kid. My mom was a single mom working, and I also struggled with that duality. Like, am I American or am I Indian? Because my parents are from
Yeah.
India. I'm the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
generation
yeah, yeah.
born here in California. And so what am I? And then when I felt like I didn't fit in, I just had these filters that nobody wanted me. And so
Yep.
that's all I ever perceived is that I was bullied and nobody wanted me and I wasn't good enough because it was a story that I started to create. Whether it was true or not, it was my truth then.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
ships me off to India on my 16th birthday, which is funny because we were joking about that the other day when she was like, "When did I send you to India?" I said, "Well, Mom, most of us got a car on their 16th birthday. I don't went to India to boarding school on my 16th birthday." And she goes, "You're right. You did." And I said, "Yes." And I carried that bitterness with me
Of
for
course.
way too long because I felt as a 16-year-old, my mom took my life away. And then the other side of me is like, but wait, I'm going to India. Like, I will fit in here because I'm Indian. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And for once in my life, I'll figure out who I am.
Yeah.
I go to this boarding school and there are American Sikhs there and then the Indian Sikhs. It got worse because now
Wow.
before, the Indians didn't see me Indian because I was way westernized. I don't even speak the language. I only spoke English. And the Americans definitely didn't see me as American because I was Indian. So it
Wow.
reinforced
Yeah.
that who are you and do you
Yeah.
even belong in this place called Earth,
Yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah.
are you gonna fit in? And so it was it wasn't rocket science of why I felt suicide was my only answer for so long. It's like, well,
Yeah.
no one's going to really care. Nobody sees me anyway. I don't know how to see myself. And I was just actually on a conversation before this show came on with one of my good friends, and we're talking about worth. There's two things that it comes down to when we're raising our children now: taking away the judgment so they
Mhm.
feel that they have a platform to come back to the parent to
Yep.
say, I feel this way, and you're not going to judge them for their feeling. Because remembering, no matter what age they are, they have a different filter than you do.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's great to ask your child, do you want to vent or do you want me to help you solve it? Because
Mm.
that will in itself take away judgment. And one of my good friends taught me this years ago because I was complaining about a neck ache and complaining. She goes, Vinu, you've told me this 6 times. Like, are you venting to me or are you asking me for a solution? And I said, you know what? I'm not sure yet. Let me get back to you. And it stuck with me because even as a parent, are our children venting to us just to get it out or do they want us to solve it? And
Wow.
The other aspect of that is, how do we install the worth within our child, our children, from internal references, not external references?
That's so scary. I never even thought of it like that. Like, wow, that even touches me a little bit. It's like, wow, are you venting, or do you want to find a solution? I think everybody is asking for the solution without asking. Yes, we do want to vent, but at the same time, you're really saying it to get the reaction, but not the reaction that you think you even know, because you just want them to really console you and have compassion. But you're actually asking for help. Wow, that taught me something just now.
And so, just like, even being married, it's like, one of my mentors, is Tony Robbins, and he says, let your woman vent. Like, she just wants to vent because the feminine, yes, she wants you to protect her. The feminine wants the masculine to rescue them and protect them and fix everything. And the masculine wants to fix. Like, that's what the masculine wants. I'm going to fix the
Yeah,
problem, right?
yeah,
But sometimes we want to vent, but you're right. Like, why am I venting to my husband? I'm venting to him because I have all these emotions inside of me and I don't know what to do. So, regardless if you're allowing me to vent or I want you to actually solve it, you are resolving it. You're resolving it
yes,
by listening
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is so important, and I think that's what's fallen short on kids now. They're so afraid to say things. They're so even afraid to even. Especially with my kids, because I have set the standard like way up here. So they're like, oh, I can't even do anything close to what my dad's doing because, oh my god, like, because a lot of people ask me, they're like, are your kids artists? I'm like, no, I've taken the fun out of art for them. Like, I've completely destroyed art. They're like, "Nah, that shit looks too hard. There's no way I'm doing that." And I'm like, "No, but see, it's not." It's sometimes, and what I'm realizing over the time, and just how like all my like career and stuff is, it's bigger than us. Like, what you're doing is actually bigger than you. What I'm doing is so much bigger than me, but we
absolutely.
are the vessels of it. So, yes, I don't you're not listening to me specifically, listening to an energy, and take that energy for what it's worth, for face value or for not face value. Either we bring something to the table or we don't. You have got to learn, and you be able to distinguish that, because when you talk about the duality, man, I really dealt with that for a long time from the beginning. So my mother is German, my father's Hispanic. Me, I identify as Hispanic, but I wasn't white enough for the white people. I'm not brown enough for the Hispanics and the Latino. So it's like, well, damn, who am I? Like,
Hmm.
and that alone is such it's a travesty, because you look to, well, my people, my people, my people, my people, and they're like, you're not our people, and you're
Right.
like, well, damn. So where does
Where's
that
my
leave
tribe? Where's
me?
my tribe? Right? Where's my tribe?
Yeah. And it's like, but what's really crazy is, how come is every single one of us that has dealt with that become the tribe? So we
Right.
actually look for something that we're actually bigger than that.
Mhm.
It's crazy when you start to reverse engineer all these steps and processes. And like I say, the retrospect of a lot of things, it's like, I was never meant to be part of a crowd because I'm the leader. You were never meant to be part of that crowd because you're a leader. And then now, because you can see that, so we are here to liberate others,
Right.
because we're all supposed to be the same. I even the same thing was for someone that's all Hispanic, all white. They still deal with that duality too. Of they, even if they are accepted, okay, so they're accepted, but they're still who they are. So just because you're loved and you're revered doesn't mean they care.
Right.
We all know that.
Right. And that's why, like, my message, all of this is like, be curious, not critical. One of
Yeah.
our viewers, Eric, he says, when we don't know if they're venting or seeking solution, we tend to approach the conversation from an emotional perspective, which is so true. Because in
One
our
hundred
emotions,
percent.
there is, I'm the parent, I have to fix it. Well, fixing it sometimes is just letting them vent to you without judgment. Like, it,
Yeah.
maybe this talk should have been about judgment, because that's really what it comes down to, is that I will know my worth internally when I know that I'm not being judged for it. I mean, because we are, like, if I express to you, well, I feel important here, or you know what, I'm really good at this. Oh, you're conceited. Like, you think it's all about you. You're so selfish. If we can't be our own raving fan, how
Yeah.
do we expect anybody else to be a raving fan? And
One hundred
yet
percent.
we preach that and we don't do it because of judgment. And so we want our kids, like I tell my kids all the time, I said, you need to know you are the best in yourself. And
Hmm.
there's always another level,
Yeah.
you know? and be hungry for that next level. Be the best you can be right now,
Yeah,
and know that there's another level to get to be hungry to grasp on,
of
because
course.
every step of the way there's another level to be best at. So they're always looking, and they're never redefining themselves as, oh, I'm not good yet, I'm not good yet. No, you are good. You're as good as you need to be right this moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And
They forget that.
they do.
They do.
When I look at all of this, though, when we talk about how do we overcome ourselves and how do we teach our kids to overcome it, and it's my mission, which I explained to you before, was let's give kids a childhood they won't have to heal from. And it's
Yeah,
going right back down to, if anybody asked me, how did I go from feeling suicidal, depressed on antidepressants to where I'm at today, I would say mindset. And I'm going to take a great venture to say for you, it was the same thing.
yeah. No, it is 100%. And what's really crazy is, I think for a lot of us, especially the ones that feel like they're inadequate, they already have what they want. It's just not good enough because of the standard of what everybody else is. Well, I know I'm giving my 20% is actually better than your 80%. But they still think, well, my 20% is 20%. This is all I can do. I'm a C student. This is where I go. I'm an F student. Okay, so you're not academically right, but I'm pretty sure you're amazing at other things. Most people, they really kind of dictate to themselves, like, oh, I'm an F student, so everything correlates to that. No,
They
that's not
let it define
true.
them, right? They let them
Yeah,
define
and
them.
it doesn't. And
No.
the same thing with me. So my image and my appearance, I thought really defined who I was. So I really needed my actions to kind of change that. So that's where that mindset. And I think Tony Robbins really, really helped me address myself and to understand like why I am the way that I am. And it was probably the scariest and most fulfilling things I've ever dealt with. Because I
Yep.
didn't realize where my pain came from. And I mean, what you talk about, grow up when you don't have to heal from who you are. I mean, wow, like man, that's so powerful because it took for me, I was 35 when I realized who I truly was. And then now I can understand why I was the way that I was. If you can really kind of nip that in the bud in the beginning and say, you know what, and I do that with my daughters. We talk about it all the time, and I'm saying, listen, if there's something bothering you, say it. I mean, no matter what, the outcome is not going to be as worse as you think. It's not going to be as bad as you think. Because we're here for accepting. I remember my 15-year-old. She says, I want to talk to you guys. I think I'm bisexual, and she was afraid. And I said, wow, you know what kind of courage it takes for a 13-year-old, because she was 13 at that time, for a 13-year-old to say that to their parents. I would have never thought in my life that I would ever say some crazy stuff like that. But that's courage. But I look at it in a different perspective too. It's like, wow, you've got the courage to say that, but yet you still do all this dumb stuff. You're smart enough in the hindsight to say, hey, this is what I can do, and this is who I am, and this is how I feel. But yet you'll still do this. But what I forget, you know, my wife gives me a hard time about it, is that my kids are kids. I
Yep.
kind of forget that. I really forget that. My wife's like, I'm like, I'm not going to hire them from society. I'm not going to tell them that it's not rainbows and butterflies, because unfortunately it's not rainbows and butterflies. But I give them the harsh reality of something that they can't even understand that perspective just yet.
Right.
So I learned a lot of stuff from Tony Robbins. Really, really profoundly helped me in so many aspects of like parenting and just me developing myself and having to carry myself, because as parents. I mean, if there's 8 billion people, there's it means 8 billion different recipes on how to raise a family.
Right. And you got to figure out which one's going to be right for your child, because there's not one way to raise
Yep.
your children. I'm not
Right.
saying that my way that I talk about is the way for your child. Maybe,
Hmm.
you look at helicopter parenting or conscious parenting or mindset parenting, whatever you want to call it. I'm always about take off the labels and just be the parent your child needs you to be. And
One
what
hundred
your
percent.
child needs you to be right now is asking them, or seeing what are the wounds thus far that they have that you can help them heal through. And it's really about finding the gift in things. When we talk about healing, it's not judging them. Like if they say, hey, mom, I need you to know that you're going to get a call today because, I stole a kid's lunch today, at school. And oh my God, you stole a kid's lunch. Instead of going, you know what? Something must have happened for you to steal that. Why don't you just talk to me about what happened?
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Because my mom would have beat me if I stole
Yeah.
someone's lunch. But
Yeah.
if we could start to change the conversation where our kids feel comfortable enough to come and tell us and own what they did, and not, well, why did you? But what created that feeling in you that you needed to take that?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
There's a story in their mind that they created, and they found that taking that child's lunch was the only solution to it. So if
Yeah.
they're coming to you about it, instead of punishing them, talk to them about it. Find out, get inquisitive, be curious, because now they will hopefully, when you talk to them about it, they won't make the same mistakes because they learned and they grew through it. And now there's nothing to heal. When they're 35, they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm a loser because I stole lunch when I was 14 years old. Like, heal that now and
Yeah.
be
100%.
open to your child coming to you with whatever it is. And if you need a moment because you are angry, or because why are we angry? We had an expectation that our kid wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Or we think it's a measurement tool like, oh, people are going to think that I'm the worst parent because my kid did this. So take a moment and say, you know what? Thank you for sharing with me. I need some time to process this, but let's have a talk about it later. Go process it somewhere else. Don't put your emotions on your child
Yeah.
moment because they're already dealing with them. That's why they're coming to you if they have that open, safe, and trusting space to have the conversation. And I'm going to tell you that is one way to help your child overcome who they are today so they could be a better them tomorrow.
Mm. Yeah. That's so true. But you know what? A lot of it goes back to like our conditioning.
Yeah.
It's like as I started, they were younger. I could hear my mom out of me because that's just what I knew. That's how discipline worked. It was like I was like, man, I didn't realize that I was gonna really sound like my mom, and I started to sound like my mom, and I'm like, I didn't relate well to that information. I did the complete opposite of what she said. So I started to really say, well, how do I said, you know what, I'm gonna lead by example. And even that doesn't even do the right magic because I thought that by me being ambitious and me being super successful and all this stuff working, that my kids will follow suit. And they don't. They don't. They are conditioned into, I wanna my dad's we're doing well, so that means I'm doing well. And I'm like, no, baby, that's not how it works. It's like my life and mom's life, we're good, but you are formulating your life. You are starting to structure your life. What we want to do is hopefully give you the right tools to where that when we send you out into the society, that you can not blow yourself up every 10 minutes and not have to call me because the other day we were out of the country, me and my wife, for one of my shows, and our daughter calls and she says, "Dad, my battery's dead in my car." And I'm like, "Okay, clearly I can't change it from here.
Right.
So, what are you gonna do now?" She says, "Oh, well, I don't know what to do." And it's like, well, the first thing you do is you find a battery. First, you Google. You're on the phone. This is what is so astonishing about the youth now. They have their phone attached to their hand. They'll look up how to make slime, how to do this, how to do all the dumbest things on the planet, but they won't Google how to change a battery. Like really? Like, but
Yeah.
but this just shows like the conditions of what's very easy to deal with because it's easy to making slime, that's fun. I go get this and I go get this and I can put that together. It's fun. Well, changing tire, that's actually a problem. My tire blew and then my rim could be messed up. And what is this? And so they take it for face value of it being like a punishment. And I think
Mm,
a lot of us kids, when we did something, it wasn't that the act of it actually happening. It was like, oh, what's going to happen to me now?
right.
Well,
Right.
actually, you didn't want your tire to be flat. Now, if you said, I ran into a parked car, okay, then that's a different thing. But if you were driving and you got a flat, that's out of everybody's control. That's when we talk about life happening.
Right.
And it will always happen. But our mindset will allow us and hopefully our parenting and us doing the right thing for our children kind of puts them in the right circumstance of not having to call me. And I tell them, and whenever anything happens, call me. She's like, you always want me to call you when the problem happens. But yes, I want you to actually solve the problem as you're calling me. Like, don't worry. Because she has a boyfriend. I said, don't call me anymore. You call him. He's your fix it, Mr. Fix It Man now. He wants to be the Mr. Man, so we're gonna challenge him with that Mr. Man. And he says, he comes to me and he calls me Pops. He says, "Hey, Pops, honestly, I don't know. Can you help me?" Because his family, it's so crazy that everybody's families. He loves to be at our house because we actually care. We actually sit in the same room. We actually congregate. We talk. We have conversations. His family, everybody's in their room. The mom and dads, they're in their room. The brothers and sisters, they're all in their rooms, and they even eat in their rooms. It's like,
Mm,
wow, you start to understand how people are, and it's like, everybody, that's why they say treat everybody with kindness because nobody knows the battles that everybody's dealing with on the inside.
right.
Every
Right.
single one of us are dealing with this stuff that nobody knows. Why not try to make it a little bit easier? But the way society has kind of put these things in front of us, it's hard to not have a specific perception about something, and as kids, you know I get so offended with some of the things. It's like, right from wrong, it, but yet you still do the dumb stuff. And this goes from adults. Doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or 100 years old. Most of the time, and this goes right back to the three characteristics that I talk about: the right, the left, and then the you. Why do you keep listening to the left?
Right.
You know the outcome, and people say, what my life coach Dave Gagnon taught me. He says, from the beginning, Kevin, I want you to keep the end in mind. If you keep the end in mind, you skip so many steps, because everybody that I've had this conversation with, they're like, oh, I met this person and I kind of knew he was going to screw me over. Then why did you go into business with him? You knew from the beginning that it wasn't going to work out, but yet you still did it. So if you keep the end in mind, and I try to teach my kids, and that's a concept that's pretty dense. It's a lot to kind of cipher through, to know to keep the end in mind. To have that retrospect of how something is going to work in the long run. I had an old protege of mine, which is no longer my protege. He says, "You're so quick to say no to things." It's like, why I say no? Because I know the outcome.
Right.
And every now and then I'll challenge that and I'll say, you know what? I'm going to go against my own thing to see if it works. Does it work? Never. It never does.
Well, one of my mentors, William Whitecloud, he always talks about the end result. What is the end result that you want? And I just did a goal setting, you know, uh, class with some of the students I teach, and we were talking about goal setting. And I said, I want you to see January or December 31st, 2023. What are you
Yeah.
celebrating? What are you excited about? What happened in that whole year? Because that's what you want when you're creating your goals. Forget
Yep.
about the how. The how will come
Yep.
when you know and you claim this is what's going to happen and you see yourself celebrating it. And it all just is created magically. And I learned that from William, is that we just have to hold the end result, and we stay true to that end result. Everything
Yeah.
else will fall in line for you to accomplish it. And I love that. And we just have a few more minutes, and I just want to bring to light also is that either we're going to be able to create that space for our children to allow us to influence them, because you can only influence when you're not judging, or
Yeah.
we're going to step aside and let society influence them. And as parents, you have the choice. You
Hmm.
have the choice by the relationship you're cultivating with your child in this moment. And it's not too late. It is so not too late. I had to reconstruct my whole relationship with my mom when I was in my 30s, and I did it. And it was a lot of forgiveness for myself, forgiveness for my mom, knowing that she did the best that she knew how in that moment.
Mm.
And who have I become because of the parent that she was or wasn't that I needed? I am
I
so
think
excited.
I think I'm going through that right now, actually,
Yeah.
with my mom. Yeah, because the success was very scary for her. She like shuts down with money. It took her 2 years to come see the house we bought, and now we're going there for Christmas and we leave Thursday. And I'm like, oh, how is this gonna kind of play out? Like, everybody feels like, Mr. Big Shot over here, Mr. Big Shot, so that's who I've become. And it's like, man, like,
But money
like,
doesn't
am I,
do that.
no, no, no. I was always a big shot. Like, and my mom said that. She was like, "You were always kind of like the one, but now that it actually has some merit, it's like, oh, now I don't believe it." Well, you said it since I was a child that I was this thing. Like, I always was very ambitious and I did this, but now that I'm ambitious, now you don't want to see it, and it's this hindrance that on our relationship. So it's Like, I know I have the moments where, oh, I miss my mom, and then I call her, and then 3 minutes into it, I'm kind of frustrated and aggravated, and I'm like,
So,
why do you have to throw shots? Like, why is there always like a thing that you have to poke the bull? And my mom, it's like with kids and parents. My kids know my triggers. They know right where they could take me to the right before I get like, okay, it's about to happen. They do that, but my mom, she's like tabbing on, like playing drums on my triggers, and it's like, why? And it's frustrating. It's like, mom, for the one person I wanted to tell me that they were proud of me, didn't.
right.
And that's hard. It's very hard.
It is. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we need that from them? Because, like all kids, we want to know that we were enough for our parents. We want to know that, as much as our parents want our kids to, we as parents want our kids to do better than us. And our kids want to know that we did that, so they're proud of us, right? Like, we want to
Mhm.
prove to our parents. So what it comes down to is just understanding, like, the fear of, am I losing my son because now he's famous and has this money? Am I enough for him now because I don't make the money he makes or whatnot? Instead of just putting all that aside and seeing that you're still the little boy that she gave birth to and loved and raised. And so thank you so much for being here.
Well,
As we're wrapping up, is there any last thing you'd want to tell the audience? Any last words of wisdom?
one of the mantras I've left with, even from my last show in Dallas, believe in yourself. That's the only truth we have left.
I love that. Believe in yourself. The only truth we have left. I love that. Create. Thank you so much for taking time away from your painting. I know all of us, we love your work and you have a lot to do. So thank you for creating your vision through your painting so we too can have that in our homes. I really appreciate you. And as I
Thank
always
you.
tell, the listeners, be curious, not critical. If you are finding value in the conversation here on our show, please join our Redefine Parenting group on Facebook for even more tips and conversation. Do someone you know a favor and share my group with them as well, so they too can hear what they need to in order for them to feel supported in their parenting journey. The show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live
Yes, awesome.
it.